After losing her husband, David Rowan, in a drowning accident, troubled Linda Rowan takes her 15-year-old daughter Renee and moves to the deserts of New Mexico in hopes of getting a fresh start. There, she meets her boyfriend Chase Duvall, who after a few months of dating, reveals his true identity as an abusive alcoholic man. Detesting Chase for what he does to her mother, Renee always begs Linda to break up with him, to no avail. As a result of this and the unprocessed trauma of suddenly losing David, Renee's and Linda's relationship becomes extremely strained and they barely speak to each other. This domestic tension has made Renee an isolated outcast at school, someone who likes to keep to herself. To escape everything, Renee draws non-stop and surrounds herself with her unusual pets, a hairy tarantula and a snake named Graham.
You know what, Graham? Really might be my best friend.
One night, strange sounds echo across the desert, followed by lightning as a mysterious object crashes into the abandoned bushes. A man out hunting with his dog hears the disturbance and decides to investigate. His dog runs ahead, chasing the source of the noise into the wilderness. When the man sees something in the bushes, he tries to defend himself by shooting at the unknown object. Despite his efforts, both he and his dog vanish without a trace. Early the next morning, on the other side of town, Renee says goodbye to her dead lizard and cremates it in the backyard. After the small ceremony, she returns inside to prepare for school. As she gets ready, Chase provokes Renee with rude comments, leading her to storm out angrily. Before leaving for school, she decides to take harmless revenge on Chase for his behavior. At school, Renee continues her isolated, mere existence. At lunch, she makes acquaintances with another introvert named Gil Lopez, and awkwardly sits with him, which excites the shy boy tremendously. At the end of the day, Renee waits for Linda to pick her up, but is annoyed that she is late. After a few minutes of waiting, Linda arrives, but as soon as Renee enters the car, the two get into an ugly fight in which Renee accuses her mother of being irresponsible and letting Chase ruin their life. At home, Renee rushes to her room to feed Graham and sings to him in hopes of comforting him. During dinner, Chase starts complaining in detail about a new scratch he found on his car. Before the women could answer him, he goes on to complain some more about how untidy the kitchen is, which starts a quarrel between him and Renee.
That microwave, it smells funny. Someone ought to clean it.
Frustrated, Renee storms out of the house to get some fresh air in the backyard and calm herself down, but loses her mind in anger when she hears an altercation between Linda and Chase. Unable to stand it any longer and hoping to escape everything, Renee starts her dirt bike and drives off into the night. After driving for a few minutes, Renee sees something mysterious in the bushes and goes to check it out. Before she can process the image of the giant dark creature she sees, the monster starts to act aggressively, trying to break free from its chains while Renee swallows her fear and quietly watches. As soon as the creature stops moving, Renee gets up and rushes to her dirt bike to get away, but feeling sorry for the trapped monster, returns to free it before making her final escape. When she gets home, Renee is annoyed to see Chase apologizing to her mom like he always does after his outbursts, and stays out hoping to avoid them. She spends the whole night thinking about the creature she saw in the bushes, and she decides to take some footage of it as evidence. The next morning, Renee is forced to rush her plan as she notices unusual government activity around her usually quiet town, which she suspects has something to do with the creature. Hence, Renee approaches Gil at school and, after a lot of back and forth, manages to convince him to lend her his mother's video camera. At the end of the day, Renee rushes home in hopes of getting to the bushes early, but is caught off guard by Chase, who calls a family meeting to announce that he has started his sobriety journey and asks Renee to get along with him for her mother's sake. However, Renee sees through Chase's tactics and is not impressed by his false promises, unlike Linda. Renee then puts the family drama aside, and while everyone is distracted, sneaks around the house to gather what she needs for her trip. Then, she boldly steals Chase's gun before heading off on her dirt bike. After a few minutes of riding, Renee gets to the bushes but is surprised to find it empty. She walks around the area to find any clues, and just as she starts to think that someone else got to the creature before her, she finds a trail and follows it. At the end of the trail, Renee notices the dark creature seated dormantly and gets her gun out to incite a reaction, but fails. After making sure the creature is far away and still dormant, Renee sets up the camera on a stand and starts recording before walking to it. Then, as she gets closer, Renee notices that the creature is still in shackles and frees it. Still getting no movement, Renee returns to her camera to fix the angle, but is suddenly attacked and pushed to the ground by the giant monster. Renee is shocked by the sudden attack and becomes terrified out of her mind. However, after a few minutes of hovering around her, the creature surprisingly steps back. Renee catches her breath, calms herself down, and continues filming it. She spends the whole evening talking to the creature from a distance, filming it, and is suspicious when she suddenly notices federal helicopters hovering around the bushes. Suspecting they are looking for the creature, she advises the monster to stay hidden, packs up her stuff, and returns home. There, Renee rewatches her videotape, and as she tries to process everything on it, she realizes that she forgot Chase's gun in the bushes, which forces her to return. She evades Chase's questions and quietly sneaks out back again. However, once outside, she gets the shock of her life when she finds the creature by her house. Hoping no one sees it, she orders it to follow her back to the bushes. Once there, right as Renee prepares to bid it farewell in an attempt to bond with her, the monster unexpectedly releases some mysterious bright force and knocks her out. The next morning, when Renee wakes up, she sees that the creature has been guarding her all night and is touched by the gesture. Then, hoping to protect it from those looking for it, Renee takes the creature to her house, names it Croak for the noise it makes, and hides it in the cellar after telling it to hide if anyone else comes close to it. Meanwhile, in the bushes, field intelligence agent Jonathan Keyes leads his team in searching for the creature. He orders his friend Agent Brown to comb the area with a fine-tooth comb and find hints to point them to its whereabouts. Back at the Rowans' residence, once Renee makes sure both Chase and her mom are out for the day, she decides to miss school and spend the day with the Croak. She starts out by taking it out of the cellar and giving it a tour of the house. After hours of this, Renee offers the Croak some packed food, but is disappointed to see it refuse it. Then she takes it to her room, introduces it to her weird pets, and warns him to never attack them. Then, hoping it would comfort it in his new environment, Renee starts to sing a song to Croak. Renee promises to keep Croak safe no matter what. Then she spends the whole day watching TV and relaxing with it until her mother arrives. While Linda gets into the house, Croak and Renee sneak out. Moments later, Gil shows up and informs Linda that Renee missed school. Linda swallows what she hears and politely directs Gil to Renee's bedroom so that he can grab his video camera. Meanwhile, Renee returns the Croak to the cellar, gives it some water, and returns to her room to find Gil terrified out of his mind after watching the videotape of Croak. Renee panics and unsuccessfully attempts to play down the content of the tape, and the two get into a fight over who gets to keep it until Linda interrupts them.
I know this is new territory, but I think we should leave the door open.
Gil then threatens that if Renee doesn't explain everything on the tape, he will give the videotape to the police. Feeling cornered, Renee takes Gil to the cellar to show him everything. There, Gil is utterly terrified by what he sees, and the situation gets worse as Croak tries to attack him.
Gil, relax.
Renee intervenes in time, calms down Croak, and informs him that Gil is harmless. Croak calms down a bit and approaches Gil in order to register his scent, which is too much for the young, shy boy, who loses consciousness out of terror.
Now that is a surprise.
When he comes to, Gil continues to panic and attempts to leave the cellar. Renee calms him down and demonstrates that Croak is harmless. Then after spending some time in the cellar, Gil promises not to expose the creature and leaves. Unbeknownst to the kids, intelligence agents have recorded every bit of their interaction. Renee then spends the whole evening in the cellar talking to Croak about her dad, whom she misses dearly. She then sings a song for it while encouraging it to eat, but fails to convince it. The next day at school, Renee is surprised to see that Gil is concerned about Croak not eating and hears him out as he proposes different ideas that may help. Finally, Gil convinces Renee that Croak wants to hunt itself and eat, and the teenagers schedule to meet in the bushes later that night so that they can help Croak hunt. Later that night in the bushes, Renee sets Croak free. Croak quickly hunts and finally eats, to the delight of Renee and the horror of Gil. Renee and Gil spend some time getting to know each other until Croak finishes hunting.
Thank you, buddy.
Renee then thanks Gil for his help, begs him not to tell anyone about Croak, and bids him farewell. She then takes Croak back home to the cellar and gets him to rest. Then, when she enters the house, Renee finds Chase waiting for her, and as soon as she steps in, he grabs her and demands to know where his gun is. After some attempts to free herself from his grasp, Renee admits that she lost Chase's gun. Chase continues to hold on to her and to scare her, which Croak senses and starts to get agitated. All of a sudden, Chase pins Renee to the ground and starts attacking her. Disturbed by the ruckus, Linda rushes in to help her daughter. As this chaos continues, unable to take Renee's pain any longer, Croak violently breaks the walls of the basement, which shakes the house to its core, giving the women a chance to escape Chase's attack. Linda then angrily throws her boyfriend out of the house for good.
You're crazy, ass.
Renee is grateful for Croak's intervention, while the grown-ups believe they just had a small earthquake. She runs to the cellar to find Croak still agitated, and warns him to calm down so that it won't get caught, before spending the night by its side. The next morning, Agent Jonathan meets Renee as she leaves for school and asks to talk to her while giving her a ride to school. On the way, the agent explains that they found her prints on Chase's gun, found in the bushes, and urges her to tell him everything she knows. Seeing the young girl's hesitation, Agent Jonathan gives her a day to think about it and come forward. Meanwhile, back at the house, Linda is frustrated to notice that their water is cut off and calls the plumber, Lou, to get it fixed. Lou goes into the cellar to check everything and is confused by the amount of damage he sees. As he goes around the room to inspect the situation better, he gets the shock of his life. Lou drops everything and runs out of the cellar, hoping to save his life. He rushes to his van and drives away in panic, but unfortunately doesn't get very far. Later that day, Linda picks up Renee and drives her home. There, the women get into an ugly fight in which Renee accuses her mother of not dealing with her father's passing properly and running away from memories of him.
No, you just couldn't handle seeing one single thing that reminded you of him without shattering.
Shattered by her daughter's harsh words, Linda shuts down, informs Renee of the problem with their water, and gives her some bottled water before storming out of the car. Moments later, Renee realizes that the water pipes must have been damaged from Croak's tantrum the night before, and runs to the cellar to see it. There, Renee is shocked to see the mess, and as she goes deeper into the room, finds Croak whimpering in the corner.
What did you do?
Renee cleans up Croak's bright yellow blood, calms it down, and tells it that it can no longer stay in the cellar and keep hurting people, which she fears will expose it to the authorities. So she decides to take him to the canyon for the night until she comes up with a permanent solution. Meanwhile, Agent Brown goes to see Gil and demands to know about Croak. Later that evening, Renee calls Gil and asks to meet him in the desert, which flatters the shy boy. Then, hoping to make it on time, she starts on her way with Croak. After going a few distances, Renee decides to teach Croak how to run and encourages him to reach her as she rides fast in her dirt bike.
Fast! Come on, fast!
At the canyon, while Croak roams around, Gil and Renee hang out. Renee shares her plan to steal Chase's van and take Croak to the National Reserves the next morning and stay with it for a few days until it adapts. Gil is against the insane idea and tries to change her mind to no avail. Later, Gil promises to bring her some tents for the road before going back home, while she comforts Croak, promises that she will be back for it in the morning, warns it to stay quiet and hidden, and goes home to pack. At home, Renee packs a suitcase, sets her pets free in the backyard, leaves a farewell note by her mother's bedside, and proceeds to leave. However, just as she gets to the van, a drunk Chase appears out of nowhere and attacks her while threatening her with his shotgun.
Knew you took my keys.
Chase then aggressively carries Renee to the house, wakes up Linda, holds them at gunpoint, and starts rumbling and professing his love for Linda. Meanwhile, agents surround the canyon and start searching for Croak, but come up short, as Croak had sensed Renee's distress and started on his way to the house to help her. At the house, Reen escapes and runs for her life, but just as she makes it to the van, Chase catches her. However, before Chase could act, Croak shows up out of nowhere, blindsides the drunk man, violently attacks and kills him, despite Renee's plea to stop. Then, feeling ashamed for being aggressive in front of Renee and shocking her, Croak runs away into the night. Just as Renee prepares to go after Croak, Gil arrives at her house and informs her that he had told the agents everything after they threatened to deport his family.
I trusted you!
I didn't have a choice, but my grandpa that we're going to deport him.
Then Agent Jonathan arrives at the house, and to the shock and protest of Gil, the agent then orders his men to tie Renee to a chair, strap her to multiple devices, and attempt to measure the level of bond she has with Croak. After a few minutes, they learn that Renee and Croak have the strongest bond they have ever seen. Deciding to use this fact to his advantage, Agent Jonathan unexpectedly breaks one of Renee's fingers, forcing her to cry out in sheer pain. Feeling his best friend's pain and unable to stand it, Croak rushes from the wilderness to Renee's rescue, but unfortunately falls into the trap set up by the agents. Renee watches in utter horror as Croak suffers and begs the agents to stop hurting it. Feeling agitated by her screams, Agent Jonathan puts a gas mask on her and puts her to sleep.
You're killing it! You're gonna kill it, please!
The agents take over the nearest police station for their operation and transport Croak to study it. Renee wakes up to find herself tied to a chair and is met by Agent Jonathan, who explains how dangerous Croak is. He goes on to detail that Croak was sent by other extraterrestrial beings as part of their reconnaissance mission, and the only way to send a message that the human species is to be feared is by violently killing Croak.
So we don't have to worry about it hurting another person. Nice shot.
Renee disregards everything the agent says and keeps explaining that Croak is her best friend. Seeing that he failed to convince her, Agent Jonathan gives her an ultimatum. Either she agrees to be tested on to find out the most painful way to kill Croak, or they send her clinically depressed mother into an asylum. Before Renee can process this, Linda is sent to see her. Then, instead of admonishing her daughter like Renee expected, Linda kindly apologizes to Renee for not being there for her. As soon as Linda leaves, Renee decides to break more of her fingers and inflict pain on herself in hopes of calling Croak from wherever he is. This works out as planned, and as soon as she screams in pain, Croak wakes up, breaks all its chains, and starts rushing towards Renee. He reaches her room, kills Agent Brown, and knocks out Agent Jonathan before freeing Renee.
Don't be what they say you are. Be my friend.
Renee leads Croak out of the station and orders it to get into one of the cars, in hopes of driving it to the reserves, but is unexpectedly met by Agent Jonathan, who shoots in her direction.
Renee, look out!
Oh my god! No!
Feeling vengeful, the agent keeps shooting, forcing Renee to hide under the car while shouting for Croak to stay hidden. Seeing that her safety is jeopardized, Croak jumps out of hiding to attack and kill the agent, but is unfortunately fatally wounded. Renee is beside herself at seeing her best friend die and is comforted by Linda as she cries her eyes out. A few days later, Renee sits on the swing in the backyard and plays Croak's favorite song on her ukulele as Gil and Linda watch her full of empathy. Sometime later, frozen Croak is transported to a laboratory to be studied. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.